there's still something very nostalgic about going back to play gaming classics on original hardware, even if you didn't experience these things when they were brand new. But after the novelty of it all wears off and you're sick of trying to angle the light just perfectly into your screen, it's time for something more modern. This is Anbernic's RG351V, a handheld dedicated emulator to play all your favorite classics on, from NES all the way up to PSP, but we'll get to that in a second. The 351V is just one of Anbernic's many handhelds, and there's tons of handheld emulators on the market from other manufacturers as well. But why, I hear you ask? Why get this thing when you can emulate games on your phone, or on the Steam Deck, or play actual cartridges on the Analog Pocket, or even just mod your old Game Boy with a backlit screen and a rechargeable battery? Why the 351V? Well, honestly, it was for a few reasons, but mostly, why not? Who wouldn't like a large library of retro games to bring with them in a pocketable form factor that also looks kinda sleek and nostalgic? It's not actually made out of wood, by the way, it's just plastic. It does almost feel like it has a texture, and each wood grain pattern is unique on every individual device it seems, but it's not real wood. It's a love it or hate it kind of design, but I felt it was very interesting. Though there are some other colors if you'd prefer those instead. Ergonomics are surprisingly comfy, and the buttons have a nice clicky feel. It does only have one analog stick that's in a bit of an awkward position, but few games actually make use of it. The 4:3 aspect ratio of the screen is also perfect for retro games. Except maybe Game Boy Advance, I guess. I don't believe it supports video output, but it does have Wi-Fi as well as several operating systems for you to choose from. And that's the thing, the 351V will require some tinkering to really get the most out of it, unfortunately, so if you don't have any experience with emulators, then be prepared to spend some time learning. But most of the hard work is done for you anyways, and there's plenty of YouTube guides to watch. It uses a Linux-based operating system with emulation station at the front end. The stock OS is poorly optimized, and the microSD card that may come with your device isn't great quality, neither are any ROMs that might be pre-installed for you. Now, I can't tell you where to get new ROMs due to legal reasons, but Google is an amazing friend. Actually, more specifically Reddit. If you go check the top post of all time on r/Anbernic, that should keep you pointed in the right direction. But of course, you can also just rip the ROMs off of a cartridge you own if you have the right hardware to do so. Emulation is totally legal, but the gray area has always been where you get the ROMs from. I doubt anyone's gonna care if you download a ROM of Cool Spot for the SNES, since it's not like the developers are making any money off of this game today. But the distribution of ROMs is technically illegal. I only have ROMs of games I actually own, is what anyone who emulates games will tell you, and almost all of them are lying. Believe it or not, I don't have a Joust arcade cabinet. But Joust did come in this Midway Greatest Hits collection for N64, and I have this crappy novelty arcade version, which you could hardly consider a game. But I'll leave the moral dilemma of sourcing ROMs to you. Picking out a different OS to replace the stock one can be kinda tricky. The two most popular are ArcOS and Anbernic, with the former favoring those who like to tinker and optimize things for themselves, and the latter favoring those who prefer things set up for them. I went with Anbernic personally, but there are many amazing guides detailing instructions on how to install each OS and what emulation performance you can expect from each. For example, Dreamcast games may perform better on one OS versus another, so if that's going to influence your decision, it's worth looking into. It took me a while to set things up just the way I like them, but I love the end result. I have music playing in the background and all my games scraped to display box art and videos. It really puts me in a different mindset when I turn this thing on. Playing games on my phone feels too distracting for some reason, but on the 351V it's just about the game. It's very easy to load up a previous save state and continue playing right from where I left off. It's also much more convenient than carrying a bunch of cartridges around with me, and I have access to a wide variety of games. Anbernic also has some hotkeys preset for things like a speed up setting, which is super useful for RPGs. And I've always admired that Game Boy DMG form factor. There are other designs out there that have similar performance and features of the 351V if you prefer something more horizontal, let's say. And now the Steam Deck is a much more capable emulation device, but it's not exactly something I enjoy carrying around with me everywhere. Well, maybe I do take it to the bathroom more often than I'd like to admit, but imagine you're heading to a doctor's appointment, when suddenly you stop and think, okay, last time I went to an appointment, they made me wait for over an hour. This time, I'll bring something with me to play. And you go grab your Steam Deck, shove it into your pocket, and off you go. I mean, it's technically pocketable, at least, but it's not really pocketable, you know? And despite coming with a carrying case, I don't really want to carry that everywhere. A handheld emulator like the 351V slides right into your pocket, and off you go. I prefer using the 351V for emulating classic games. Sure, anything GameCube and above, I'll use my Steam Deck. But for anything classic, retro, or even something like a Pokémon ROM hack, I'm just gonna play it on the 351V. The analog pocket also looks really cool, and it's getting better every day, but it's taken a little longer than I thought to really unlock the full features of that device. Only just recently could you load a bunch of games off of an SD card. With the default battery on the 351V, you can expect maybe something in the range of 4 to 6 hours of playtime depending on what you're playing. If you want to upgrade the battery, then the community recommends using an Odroid Go Super replacement battery, which is what I did. This right here is the original battery, and when I ordered the replacement battery, they even put a piece of candy in the package, which was kinda neat. And tasty. With the new battery, you can expect maybe about 5 to 8 hours depending on what you're playing. I have noticed a slight overheat issue, even with the original battery. When the system gets too hot, you'll notice this text bleed, which I don't really see anyone else talk about this, to be fair. Anbernic's quality control is questionable at best, so this could just be an isolated issue. Their customer support also isn't too great from what I've heard, so there's always a risk in buying these devices. They cost more on a website like Amazon, but you do get relatively hassle-free returns there as well. So if that's something you value, then maybe consider buying it from there, although you will be paying a little more money for it. The 351V can handle pretty much every system up to and including PlayStation 1 just fine. Well, you can't play Ape Escape because that requires a second analog stick, but everything else works perfectly. It starts to struggle with N64, Dreamcast, DS, and PSP, and definitely can't handle anything above those systems. Oddly enough, I found that I had better Dreamcast performance using 351elec, which was the previous version of Amberelec, the current operating system I'm using. Sure, games will run, but struggle to even maintain 30 FPS at times, making a lot of them unplayable. But at least half of the Dreamcast and N64 libraries should be playable. Something like Mario Kart runs great, but other games will take a graphical and performance hit. Same thing goes for PSP, with the added con of the screen not being the right aspect ratio for that system, so you end up with big black bars on the top and bottom. That being said, games like Lumens or Loco Roco feel really great to play, and there's a few other games that run pretty well here too. DS is kinda weird for a few obvious reasons. We're lacking a second screen and touch capability. Even if a game runs, that doesn't make it playable. You can switch between the screen view with R2 and L2 as well as use the analog stick to control touch input. But any game that heavily relies on the second screen or touch input is pretty much unplayable. Games like Mario Kart are perfect because the second screen is used only for a map. You may get caught off guard by red shells though. New Super Mario Bros. Is great. The Castlevania games are fantastic, although you will have to download a no touchscreen patch to play Dawn of Sorrow. Kirby Squeak Squad only uses the second screen to store items, so that's playable. And even something like Pokémon Heart Gold will work, though you will need to make more frequent use of both screens to navigate the menus, so it's not exactly ideal, but it is doable. Overall, this isn't the system you pick up to play N64 games and above, but the community around these devices has done some amazing work with ports, getting some rather recent games ported onto this as well as a few other Anbernic devices. Shovel Knight, Undertale, Stardew Valley, Celeste, and even the new Ninja Turtles game, all running natively. This probably isn't the greatest device to experience those games on, but the fact you can play them at all on here is absolutely amazing. And this list just keeps growing as community developers continue to work on these devices. You can further expand the games you play with ROM hacks and fan translations. I know you keep hearing about how people want Mother 3 localized, but in the meantime, you can just play the fan translation. Maybe grab a ROM hack of your favorite game. I mean, who doesn't love some Kaizo Mario? I've been really enjoying Pokémon Unbound recently too. On the other side, we have things like AM2R. Not a ROM hack, but a complete fan game that was ported to this device. I played through Metroid Zero Mission, AM2R, Super Metroid, and Metroid Fusion on this thing. You can even run those point-and-click adventure games with Scum VM on here, although I heavily advise against it due to how cumbersome the controls become. The RG351V is an absolutely amazing emulator, and I know other YouTube videos have covered it before, but I've been loving it so much I just had to talk about it. What originally sold me on this device in the first place were the videos by Retro Gamecore. And chances are if you're watching this video, then you've already seen his. But if you ever need help with setting up this device, then the Retro Gamecore website has amazingly detailed written guides and videos for you to check out. If you run into other problems, then I've had great success consulting Reddit. or at least checking the FAQ section on the Anbernic website. But of course that only applies if you're also using Anbernic. And like I mentioned before, this device has its cons. Not everyone will like the ergonomics, quality control is shoddy, customer support is bad, it struggles with N64, Dreamcast, PSP, DS, and it can be a very daunting device to set up if you don't have any experience using emulators. But community support for this device is astounding. And if you take the time to set everything up and get the most out of it, then it becomes one of my favorite gaming devices of all time. And oddly enough, once you pick up one of these handheld emulators, you feel compelled to get more. Like, I've been eyeing the Miu Mini, and now the Retroid Pocket 3 is a thing, and I know full well that I don't need those devices, especially since I also have a Steam Deck, but I want them. Despite already being very happy with the 351V. Some weird brainwashing thing, I guess. Either way, I've been kinda slow with video uploads recently, so I'm gonna try to pick up the pace. I've got like 4 or 5 videos that I've started working on, but haven't had the time to finish, so we'll see. I've also got ideas for like 10 more videos that haven't even been started yet. I think the problem is when I start working on a video, I get easily distracted and very lazy. But either way, as always, I appreciate you and everything you do. Ciao.